Hello everyone, welcome to our pilot for The Pilot Show, a show by and for people who don't always finish things. I am Captain Logan, and here is my son Jayson.
That's me.
This is a series that I've been wanting to do for a real long time. I've had this idea for over a decade, Jayson.
Yeah.
Maybe going almost all the way back to, like, Rewind and Crypto Freaks, and it was a real early idea, and when I was going to do it back in the day, of course, it was going to be scripted, and these days we're doing everything live, so I thought I would put it in that format, but we've been kicking this around for a long time, and I was trying to get the right co-host for it, and Austin and I talked about it for a while, but he's doing a whole lot of different things with me, and he is going to come in for these potentially, every now and again. But I thought it was the right time to do a regular review / commentary series with Jayson, and Jayson, the only thing that's going to make this difficult to do with you is the stuff that you're not quite old enough yet to see. It's not quite appropriate for your age yet. But other than that, I think you're going to do great with it, and thanks for trying it with me.
Yeah.
As I say, this is a pilot, so our plan is to continue this on a weekly basis, or as close to weekly as we can get it. It's going to be very podcasty. We're going to give you some background at the start of the show for each pilot we talk about, and then we're going to launch into a discussion of the show while we watch the show. These will be varied in lengths depending on what kind of a pilot we're doing. So today we're doing the 2-hour, I almost said 2-part, but it isn't really, the 2-hour pilot for Star Trek The Next Generation, and that's going to be an hour and a half long. Sometimes they'll be 20 minutes, although with a lot of cartoon shows I figure we'll probably watch the first and maybe the second episode, just depending on what it is, and sometimes we might even double things up if we don't have quite enough material for a single show. But Jayson, are you excited to get into it?
Yeah, I'm excited.
So, Jayson, what are kind of the big things that we're looking for in examining pilots?
We're looking for, I'm not sure.
A few good shows.
Yeah, we're looking for good shows.
Well, we're examining these things to see if they're good. If they're telling good stories on their own, if they are, good standalone pieces at all, whether they tell a good story or the first chapter of a good story, or if they're kind of just a litany of character introductions.
Yeah, basically, would this make you keep watching?
Yeah.
I feel like.
And so those are the big questions we're going to ask at the end of each show, but I'm sure we'll check in with and talk about a little bit as we go. Does it have pilotitis? And I've always defined pilotitis like I kind of just said as the show doesn't really tell a story so much as just clunkily delivers premise and throws characters at you, and is really just trying to get on the air in the first place. So, like, does it work at all, as a piece? And do you get wrapped up in the fiction? Also, if it has pilotitis, it generally means that it hasn't come close to finding its footing yet. Does not know what it wants to be yet, doesn't have a sense of identity. And then the question that we're going to ask ourselves is, would we keep watching, like you said, but also if we were executives, would we greenlight the show?
Yeah.
Ourselves. And by pilot, we just mean either the show that was made to try to sell it to the network that was aired, and we will do some unaired pilots, and we will do some pilots while also doing our homework and talking about the versions that weren't aired. You know what I mean? So when I say unaired pilots, I mean we'll do some shows that didn't make it past a pilot.
Yeah.
Like CW Aquaman and stuff like that. But the crappy Wonder Woman show.
Wonder Woman, yep.
That with Adrian Plackey. But we'll also when we can get our hands on them anyway, try to look at versions of pilots that didn't make it to air that were originally made to sell to networks, and we won't necessarily do the commentary over those, but we'll make sure that we have watched those before we go in. So I should say these won't be blind commentaries. We have prepared for this.
We have prepared for this.
And we're going to do that each time with this one. I know we do some blind commentary shows. This one is not going to be reaction. But initially my plan was just to talk about the show after we watched it. But Jayson really wanted to have it on as we discussed it.
Yeah, I think it would make more sense, I think.
Did you think of that because as we were watching Encounter at Farpoint, there were just too many kind of funny things that jumped out at us that we wanted to make sure to mention
I
that
didn't think
might not
we would
come on?
actually remember some of the stuff.
Yeah, without like meticulously writing down every scene.
Yeah. We gotta make sure to mention, like, Lieutenant Torres and stuff.
Yes,
right?
yeah, that stuff is going to be really hilarious in hindsight. So we'll refer to all that as we go along. We thought Star Trek was a good place to start because we have, of course, a contingency of our viewers on Geekvolution that it came to us for Star Trek in the first place, and it's a thing we know really well, so we thought we could get our feet wet with it pretty well that way. But we're going to jump all over the place with genres. We're going to do every kind of thing, and that's why we're hoping to do this weekly. And again, sometimes we might even do a couple of shows in a genre in the same week. We're going to do theme months. We have all kinds of fun ideas. We're going to start putting a schedule together, and we're going to let Patreon pick shows every now and again for us, and we're really excited about it. As I said, we don't always finish things we start. So hopefully this is a thing that goes on a long time like we're wanting it to. And I've been trying not to, we've streamlined the channel a little bit. I'm not broadcasting 5 days a week like I used to. So it feels kind of counterintuitive to start another show. But Jayson and I have attempted a couple of things in the last few months that didn't really pan out. And we've been wanting to do a regular show together. So this was always the plan, even when I scaled things back, was that Jayson and I would still have a regular show.
Yeah.
And we've been doing, the father and son type thing every now and again with the Jayson Wants to Talk Abouts, and we'll still do that every now and again also, but those aren't prepared at all. We wanted to have a regular review show, and Jayson, I just think you're ready for it, man.
Yeah.
You've been doing a lot of How We Felt Abouts with me lately. Some of the big high-profile ones.
Yeah.
And you've been great on those. We did the Mario movie together, and
yeah, we did.
I forget what, Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
We did do that.
So, yeah, some of the bigger stuff on the channel, you've been my sole other co-host, and they've gone really well. So, congratulations, you've been promoted to a regular host of a review show.
Wow.
So, are you ready for it?
Sure.
Can you do it?
Yeah.
Okay, Jayson is going to be our historian for this show, and we're going to open each episode with some background on the series we're talking about. So, again, many of these things will be shows that we've never seen, or that one of us has never seen, and Jayson's going to look into it, but hopefully, not spoil us too much. With things that obviously we know what happens in TNG, and Jayson knows his Star Trek really well. But actually, let me roll time backwards for a second and say, I mean, we're gonna do anything and everything. We're gonna do sitcoms. Yep. We're gonna do primetime dramas. We might, we might kind of draw the line at soap operas.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe we'll even do one of those at some point. Maybe we'll go back and find the pilot for As the World Turns. Although those kinds of shows wouldn't have even really had a pilot because they aired live. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
That's how soap operas worked.
That's weird.
But yeah, we'll do more recent stuff. We'll go all the way back. We're kind of excited to delve into some 60s television.
Yeah.
And we'll reveal the show we're going to do next time, right at the end. Mm-hmm. And that is a show that neither of us has ever seen.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. So we're going to start with Star Trek, with sci-fi, then we're going to go to something off the beaten path. And then I think for our third show, we're going to come back to superhero. Yeah. And we won't hit superhero too often because there's so much other stuff to do, but we will definitely hit some superhero things as we go. Thanks everybody for being here, Robert Wild, child labor at its finest. Do you feel used, Jayson?
No.
I'll give him a cut of if anything happens. super chat wise. And by the way, if you're watching live, feel free to interact with us. We'll take a look at the comments as we go along as much as possible. We don't have a regular time slot for this show yet. We will be broadcasting live every time. We're doing this weirdly on a Monday afternoon. I don't know if that will end up being our regular time, but it will probably be during the day, if not on the weekend during the week. But it may not. You may not always have a regular time, but we're gonna try real hard to get it weekly, and we'll try to give you guys some notice whenever we do it. But anyway, so we're gonna open this, as I said, with some background, and Jayson is going to give us a little bit of a rundown of how TNG came to be and what happened with this pilot. So first of all, Jayson, everybody knows what Star Trek is, what Star Trek TNG is, but let's go through the motions since we're trying to create our pilot. We want to make sure that we have an identity and we don't have too much pilot-itis on our own pilot episode.
Yeah.
So, first of all, just give us a quick rundown on the premise of Star Trek The Next Generation.
The premise of Star Trek.
This is so ridiculous.
It's the 24th century.
That's true.
Yep. And it's the Starship Enterprise, the Enterprise D, and it's going through space. And
what's their mission, Jayson?
Their mission is to seek out new life and civilization.
Now it's kind of weird that we're starting with a spin-off.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people watch TNG, especially midway through, without thinking of it so much like a spin-off. But anyway, everybody knows what this is. Yep. Was it a 5-year mission, like TOS was? Do you remember what? No, it was not. Do you remember what Picard says in the opening?
Wait, does he say it in the opening?
Yes, he sure does. Because they have to change a few words here and there to update it.
Is it a 7-year mission?
No. No, we weren't going to open up in first season and say 7 years. They didn't know exactly how long they were going to go.
Is it
of course.
10-year mission?
Continuing. Our continuing mission. Yes.
I didn't realize it was actually time. I never actually realized how much was changed. I know it was man to 1, but I thought that was one of the only changes. I didn't realize they actually changed other things.
Yeah, and where no man has gone before comes up even before this. There's precedent in the movies for it.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. It actually, I think is it Wrath of Khan where Spock goes where no one has gone before, or is it one of the later movies? I forget, but the TOS movies do it too. Robert Wild, $2 super chat. You should compare and contrast the 3 Tick TV pilots. That's actually a good idea.
It is.
I hadn't thought about that, where you do a pilot with its reboot.
Yeah, that could be cool.
That's a cool idea. Or if you have a show that got like more than a couple like the Tick, you could do a whole month on that, or 3 weeks on that.
Yeah.
Real quick, sorry, I'm jumping everywhere, but just a lot of stuff in introducing the show, because we've got a lot of plans for this. Hopefully they come to fruition, but we have lots of ideas and plans. Something else we want to do is shows that we like enough to keep going with.
Yeah, sometimes we can do that.
We want to come back and revisit them, and so it will still be on the same program. We'll still call it the pilot show, but we'll do whatever the show is revisited, and we'll pick an episode that we really liked, and come back or at least an episode we saw, and come back and watch it and kind of check back in with the show.
Yeah.
And we're thinking every 8-10 episodes we might do one of those, if we have the time to watch very much, but. Anyway, okay, so give us a little bit about the background of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yeah, so, after the huge success of Star Trek 4, the Paramount wanted
1986.
to make... 1986. Paramount wants to make a new show based on the franchise. But they didn't want to use the original cast because, it would make up, too much money and stuff. So they decided to use an original cast and put it more in the future. And, use a new, original, younger cast. But,
which is hilarious when you consider who was cast as the captain.
Yeah. So Paramount came to Roddenberry about doing a new series, and he turned them down because he didn't want to put that much effort into a show again.
He was ready to retire.
Yeah, he was gonna retire and spend the summer with his kids or something. I'm not sure exactly. But,
Yeah.
But they had someone else work on it instead, and then he found this out, and he was really mad.
He couldn't have that.
He couldn't have it, so he was like, okay, fine, I'll make the show.
He was M'Baku.
Yeah.
He will not have it all!
So the show was originally going to be called Star Trek The New Adventure, and then they changed it to Star Trek A New Beginning, and then finally changed it to The Next Generation, which I actually did not know.
Such a better title.
So
Real bold, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I knew that either, actually.
Yeah. So...
And less generic.
Yeah. Originally, Tasha Yar was going to be a Latino security chief named Macha Hernandez.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And Data was going to be non-Caucasian.
Yep.
And Wesley Crusher would be a girl.
To be fair, Data's not exactly Caucasian. He's like albino.
He's like, yeah.
You said Wesley was going to be a girl?
Yeah.
Boy, how would that change the series?
Yeah.
Is there a party that kind of wishes they had done that?
Yeah. But I think
like nothing against Wheaton, but like maybe they would have cast that and written it in such a way where that character wouldn't have had the reputation that even if she saved the Enterprise all the time.
Yeah. And I'm not sure who. I think it was Roddenberry that just said that they could do more stories with him if it was a boy, but I'm not sure why.
Why?
I'm not exactly sure. And
did you know that they were... Sorry, this is your segment, but did you know that they were kicking around a black captain?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There were 3 actors they were looking at, including Patrick Stewart, and one of them I didn't recognize him. I don't remember his name or who he is, but I was watching Chaos on the Bridge again, and they showed the 3 actors side by side, and one of them was I guess maybe he'd been on some primetime dramas. I'm not sure, but one of them was a black guy.
Wow.
And that was, I forget who it was, Maurice Hurley or somebody else, but there was somebody that really, really wanted him. Anyway.
And Roddenberry really wanted Picard to be French.
Yes.
But everyone was like, no. Everyone insisted on Stewart because everyone liked him.
So they cast an English actor, and they just said he was French in the show, which you don't get in the pilot.
Do we not?
I don't remember a place where it's mentioned that he's supposed to be French.
Originally Marina Sirtis was cast as Hernandez, and
oh really?
Denise Crosby was cast as Troy.
Oh, you know what? Now that you say that.
But Roddenberry flipped them, and then Crosby's character became Tasha Yar.
Do you think if Marina Sirtis had ended up being Tasha Yar or her equivalent, that she would have done the same thing that Denise Crosby did and got so bored having nothing to do on the show she would leave? And then you would see Marina Sirtis get eaten by a tar monster?
Maybe. I feel like Crosby would have been bored being Troy, though.
Well, she would have had more to do. She would have had more to say. The famous line from Crosby is, if I'm just going to stand here for 15 hours behind a console, why don't you just get a pair of prosthetic legs to replace me?
Yeah.
You don't need me here. You could just buy legs. What else have you got?
I have these in such a bad order. So...
Okay, get organized next time, Jason.
While they were shooting, a lot of the actors didn't think the show would run for more of a year.
Yeah.
So after...
well, and importantly, the fans weren't behind it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have that in your notes.
I don't.
But part of the problem was, even with Roddenberry's name on it, the fans were against it because it wasn't the original series cast.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of quaint, and it's hard to imagine that in this day and age, with so many remakes and reboots of things and spin-offs and stuff. But somebody in the comments was asking, do you see TNG as a spin-off or a sequel? And somebody else said it's kind of both. I agree with that, but I think the fans couldn't look at it as a spin-off so many years later, and also given that the TOS crew was still very popular in the movie theater, They're like, well,
Yeah.
why aren't they getting a show? Do you think it might have been easier for people to stomach if they hadn't seen that crew in 20 years?
Yeah.
You know, if it
think
comes
so.
back in the 80s and it was the first time you saw it since then,
Yeah.
it's like, well, of course we're not going to get the original cast back. They're all doing their own thing and they're in different series and stuff. So we'll make a spin-off, but it was hard for people to see it that way.
Yeah. So they try to get it to the four big, what's it called? Like
Networks.
networks.
Yes.
But most of them just wanted to try for like a half season, and one of them, I think it was NBC, just wanted like to try for just a pilot, but they wanted the full series.
Okay, what Chaos on the Bridge says about that, and sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. This is just what I know is different than what you just said. What Chaos on the Bridge claims it was is not that your information is necessarily wrong.
Right.
Is that I don't remember if it was NBC or CBS, but one network wanted to make it a miniseries,
Yeah.
and everybody else turned it down.
Okay, so I know at least one of them wanted it to be a miniseries. One of them just wanted to try for a movie or
Yeah,
like a
I
2-hour
had-
pilot.
I had heard that,
but
yeah.
either the rest of them also tried to make it a miniseries, or they just I can't exactly remember.
Well, and the reason that they had to start shopping it around was because they were gonna do it with Fox as Fox was starting.
Yeah.
Do you know about that?
Yeah.
And Fox originally, I think it was Fox originally greenlit it for 26 episodes, and then they slashed it just all of a sudden
really?
and said 13, and they couldn't do it for 13 because of the contract that Roddenberry had signed. And so there wouldn't be a show with Roddenberry if it was any less than 26 episodes. That's why when they took it to other networks, they could not make it any shorter than that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And what's really interesting about it is that was the start of Paramount trying to launch a network with Star Trek as its cornerstone. And ultimately, the only reason TNG was able to go to air was because, I don't know if you put this in your notes, was first run syndication.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So after they weren't willing to commit to enough episodes or the high cost of the show, they went it through first run syndication. At the beginning, I'm not exactly sure how this I didn't look this up, but
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how this changed later, but at least at the beginning, like season 1, each episode was made on a budget of a little less than $1 million, and they had to, the pilot reused like old sets from movies and shows for the budget.
I didn't know that. I thought they put most everything in Planet Hell and they had to just keep redressing it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some stuff from like the movies and like stuff reused from like Phase 2 and stuff. Roddenberry wanted Farpoint to be an hour-long show, but Paramount insisted on 2 hours, so he slapped on Q stuff, the Q subplot.
Huge arguments with the production. He just did not want to have to do 2 hours, and I'll never understand why exactly, but he was just really, really on about it.
Yeah.
And DC Fontana was hired to write the pilot when it was going to be a 1 hour pilot. And then with 2 weeks before they were going to shoot, it became for sure 2 hours. And she was like, I can't write a 2 hour pilot in that amount of time. And that's why Roddenberry ended up coming in and adding crap to it.
Yeah.
And she was very unhappy because her story was not supposed to include Q or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it became this very bloated, kind of messy thing that we're about to watch and we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure and get that started here in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got about like 2 or 3.
Yeah, go ahead.
More notes
By the way, this is how the show will go, guys. So if you're wondering why we haven't started watching the show yet, we're going to discuss background some before we begin with each of these.
Yeah. So DeForest Kelley agreed to have a cameo, but he insisted on them paying no more than the minimum wage.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
He wanted to do it for scale?
Yeah, he did it, I think, out of, like, courtesy for Roddenberry.
That's cool. Real quick, can I give you, because I just thought of this as I was thinking about McCoy.
Yeah.
Which is maybe the best scene in the pilot?
I think it is.
So let me give you my argument for both spin-off and a sequel, because I had never really thought about this before people were talking about it in the comments earlier. Yeah. It's a spin-off because McCoy is there, and that's passing the torch. And each Star Trek show, up to New Trek, and even some of the New Trek shows do this too, but will pass the torch in some way, right? Yeah. So TOS is passing the baton, as it were, to TNG with McCoy. Yeah. And then can you do it with all the others?
Yeah, TNG Go ahead. With DS9 is Picard. I know that.
In the pilot.
In the pilot.
Yep, with both Locutus and Picard.
Yeah. And then I haven't seen the Voyager pilot in years.
Okay, Voyager launches from Deep Space Nine in the pilot.
Oh.
They go to the station, they use those sets, and Quark is in the pilot.
Oh, I didn't actually know that.
So it is a direct spin-off of Deep Space Nine, technically, in that way.
Okay.
And then how does Enterprise do it?
Enterprise.
And what is it technically a spin-off of? With its pilot.
It's a spin-off of TOS. Or, well, not now.
No. So Enterprise is technically, more than anything, a spin-off of First Contact.
Yeah.
Because of Zefram Cochrane.
Zefram Cochrane, yeah.
Because they have the recording with Zefram Cochrane at the beginning. He's the only returning actor.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool. But the backdoor way that you can consider it more of a sequel, besides just it's 80 years later and there's not another regular character from the first show in it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like it's a or I should say it's a sequel in the sense that it is later and it's not somebody from a show going off and getting their own show.
Yeah. Except
for, in a weird way, the Enterprise itself.
Yeah.
Now, it's a different Enterprise, but the Enterprise was always considered a character in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And the next show they did was still the Enterprise.
Right.
So in that weird kind of way, it's sort of a sequel.
Yeah.
Anything else you got before we get started?
Yeah.
This won't usually take this long because we won't usually know the shows this well. But...
Yeah. So there were definitely mixed reviews for the pilot.
Oh, yeah.
Some critics said that it was a perfect gateway into the new characters and that it was reminiscent of some classic TOS episodes, while others criticized the dialogue and acting.
We'll do some of that as well.
Yeah, I think we'll do that too.
And did you have information on ratings?
I didn't.
From when it first aired?
I didn't, actually.
We should pull that up. And I'd like to do that each time.
Yeah.
TNG, we're flying by the seat of our pants here. Farpoint ratings when aired. What? According to Wiki, it aired to an audience of 27 million. Now, keep in mind, this was in 87, where there were, a lot fewer choices. The show was immediately called the highest-rated syndicated one-hour drama series on television, which is a very specific niche, but, 27 million. That's wild.
Yeah.
Like, X-Files never hit those numbers.
Yeah.
And it did, in its second or third season, like 19, which was nuts.
Right.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that's wild.
Robert, when I think spin-off, my mind usually goes to examples of shows where you have a side character in a popular show who becomes the lead of their own show, like Better Call Saul. And that makes DS9 the most spin-off-y of all the Star Trek shows.
Yeah,
because of O'Brien, and then Worf later.
Yeah.
But it doesn't start off that way. But, like, O'Brien, and we'll see him. O'Brien is actually in TNG from the beginning, but he doesn't have a name yet.
He gets a name in Season 2.
Right.
Or Season 3.
I think by 2. Is it not till the Wounded that they finally call him? I don't think that's true. All right, folks, let's go ahead and watch the show, and we'll discuss it and review a bit as we go. And make sure to get it to timestamp 0, past all the menus. We're watching it this time on Paramount Plus, and without commercials, of course. But there's obviously lots of other ways to watch TNG. And away we go. Everybody get ready to press play. I'm just about to do that. And Jason, we didn't do a sound check here, so hopefully you'll be able to hear this. But
yeah,
let me know if you have any issues. And away we go. Everybody, please press play right now. You got it? Can you hear it?
No.
You cannot hear it.
I mean, very faintly, but actually, yeah, I can.
It's in there? Okay, good. So I actually didn't remember that the pilot didn't have a cold open.
Yeah.
And that it had the intro right away, because a lot of, and this is one of the things that'll be sort of unfortunate about our series, is we'll probably watch quite a few shows that have intro songs, but you don't actually get them in the pilot.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. So you're not the biggest fan of the season 1 and 2 intro.
No.
Talk about that.
I don't think it looks very good. I think it just looks like it looks too much like models. Like, the ship looks great, but the planets look like plastic.
Which is really funny because they're not. I mean, they would have to be effects. But...
Right.
You know, very often a pilot like this would either just skip the intro entirely, or, you know, you got to put your credits somewhere. So sometimes what you would get is kind of like what Stargate did, where...
What does Stargate do?
Well, Stargate shows you the gate, and then it just pans around the gate a lot and just puts all the names up on the screen.
Oh, yeah. The other reason I don't like this intro is because the ship doesn't fly around every time, and it's just really boring, because you just get the names, and it's really boring. Like, yeah.
Well, it feels like it's really taking its cues from the opening of motion picture.
Yeah.
And which is appropriate, because that's where the music comes from.
Yep.
And that's why Jerry Goldsmith gets his credit there, because he wrote that theme, but it's reorchestrated and sped up for this.
Yep.
Which was a real good move, because it sounds like a great TV theme.
Yeah. I really like this shot, and I wish we did it more.
Yeah.
Where, the right on it there.
It's an excellent way to introduce the ship.
Yeah.
I would argue
the shadow.
The way Picard's introduced is great, where it's, well, tell me if I'm reading too far into this. I think the point of that is, unless you've been looking at the advertising, and they advertise this heavily, of course, what you're expecting to come out of that shadow is not a older British bald man. You're expecting Kirk, you know? And then what comes out is, oh, this is not the same. You know, like, you just got this ship that looks very different. It looks like a luxury liner instead of the exploration vessel that it is. And then we also introduce our captain in a similar way, where it's like, this is the last thing you expect. And then here's how, you know, updated and contemporary everything is now for 1987.
Yeah.
With all the wood finishes.
Oh my gosh, the chairs.
And everything. Yep.
They do change the chairs later, right? Like, do they...
Some of them. I think they're all a little different, but, like, the three, you know, along with the captain's chair are not, I think later on aren't that different, but the ones in the front, they don't look like lazy boys as much.
Yeah. And...
Yeah.
And Data's very different here.
It is a little bit of a Spock situation.
Yeah.
With like Where No Man Has Gone Before, where he is a lot more emotional and shipper and surprised by things, and he's talking about how he has no emotions, but he's but he's emoting a lot.
Yeah.
And you also see a lot more of the actual actor in the role before he disappears, and I think Leonard Nimoy also had that with Spock. And very quickly, he disappears and becomes, this stoic, completely other thing.
Yeah.
And it takes Brent Spiner longer because it takes the production longer to decide what exactly he is. And I think that's true of a lot of these characters.
Yeah. So this is really dumb. They have data where you drive, but he's still detecting things. He's like, it detects it as, this, but he's in the thing, and then Torres is in where Data should be normally.
And the only reason
Worf's just there.
And don't be confused, we are watching TNG. When he says Torres, he means there's this red shirt who is who gets killed later, and then we know what that person's name is.
Yeah.
That's the only reason he knows that. So if I'm watching this when it first airs, and I think my introduction to Star Trek was TNG. I started so young. I can never remember if I saw TNG or TOS first. But if I was an adult that was a Star Trek fan and I first saw this, I would go, oh, so like the Tholians right away?
Yeah.
They've just changed what the web looks like?
Yeah.
Everything that Roddenberry is doing here is really derivative.
Yeah.
Of things that TOS has done. And as great a character as Q will become, and as beloved as he is as a recurring character and a villain and an imp and stuff, right away you go, well, we've done this. That's Trelane.
Yep, that's Trelane.
And he's got a Tholian web for some reason. And so, I mean, you can see why fans were really put off and not sure about this. Now, a lot of them, despite not wanting it in the first place, I mean, those like picketing and stuff, despite not wanting it in the first place, there were a lot of fans that stuck with it because they thought there was potential in it, and they were ultimately right about that.
Well, I think a lot of season 1 is just kind of derivative.
Yeah.
Because you do, Naked Now, and...
Well, and I was going to say, that's just Naked Time.
Yeah. Right.
the Frozen guy?
Yeah.
Pardon me, guys. I missed a super chat earlier that I meant to do before we started, so let me just read this real quick. Brightburns put in a $5 super chat and said, do you feel like Galaxy Quest makes fun of TOS more than it makes fun of TNG? And I would say yes, but only marginally so. There is quite a bit of TNG in there. I think there's actually more TOS and TOS movies than anything.
Yeah.
With like the ship scraping up against the side and all of that. Like that's making fun of the big long opening ship shots from the movies and stuff.
Yeah.
But the joke about the female character who only repeats what the computer says, that's making fun of Troy.
Yeah.
She's got one job, it's stupid, but she's gonna do it.
Yeah.
So between his first and second appearance, Q will become much more adept at teleporting around and changing costumes because it won't take him nearly as long to do his glowing thing.
Yeah. It takes forever.
It takes forever. And he'll also lose his obsession with this lattice work force field thing.
Yeah. By season 2, he loses that.
Does he have it anywhere after this?
Uh-huh.
I didn't remember that.
It's in Hide and Q.
Is it really?
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
The costumes like that.
So Picard is introduced as just a very irritable boss. So like, he has a commanding presence, and you kind of see how he got the job, but he seems like almost a high school principal before he seems like a starship captain at first. I mean, all the way down to, I have to be here with children, but I don't like children.
Yeah.
But I think it's really funny that you would introduce Picard just immediately, screaming about just regular starship operations. I didn't remember that one of his first lines in the series is "shut off that damn noise."
Yeah.
With Red Alert. It's hilarious. So you get why people didn't like him right at the start. I mean, it's very surreal for me to go back to first season, and I watch more second than first because there's a few episodes there that I legitimately really like.
Second is actually pretty good.
it's got some good episodes, but it still hasn't quite found the tone that people really like it for later. Of course, like it's still struggling a little bit, but it's figured out more of who its characters are at least. Like Riker is solidified as Riker by pretty early in the second season. But what's really weird about going back to first is I have to remind myself that some of these people aren't who I fell in love with, and it's not difficult for me to go back and watch the pilot, for instance, and see Picard acting like this because I know what he'll turn into later. But I have to kind of adjust and realize, if I had met him this way, it might have taken me longer to fall in love with him as a character.
Yeah. And I think the funny thing about this episode is the score, because it's just it's very TOS.
And it's so bombastic.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. I think there might be some places where it elevates the visuals a little bit, although the one thing the pilot really had going for it is, especially for 87, it looks spectacular. Mm-hmm. It kind of has the motion picture thing.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's a lot of style and not a lot of substance. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, I wanted to say this earlier. Oh, sorry, but with the score, there are also a lot of places where I'm laughing really hard at it in a way I wouldn't be if the music wasn't playing, because it gets so bombastic and ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we will find places as we go to bring that up, I'm sure. But I would argue they love this elevator.
Oh my gosh, that elevator.
They won't stop using it in the pilot. But I would argue that one of the main things that kept the show afloat and kept people coming back to it even before it found its footing and before we were allowed to have very much conflict at all, and while the show was still too mired in trying to decide how TOS it wanted to be and all of that, is just set design and what the thing looks like.
That looks really cool, though.
We got really ambitious with some of this stuff. It's an expensive-looking pilot.
It is.
Made pretty clear by the fact that we have a lot of bottle shows right after this. Mm-hmm. Well, I say that. I think I think first season actually has quite a few, like, going to a planet shows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying a lot of it looks a little cheaper than this.
Yeah.
Makira, 999 super chat. Thank you. He says, been watching through TNG with my brother for the first time, and I thought this pilot was better than people say, but then I saw some of this again at the end of the season 2 clip show and understood. What is the name of that, Jason?
That is Shades of Grey.
Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
And why did that clip show happen?
Why?
Writer strike.
Oh, is that one?
Yeah. They couldn't put very much together for that episode.
And is that also why that's the last episode?
Yes. I want to think that it's Roddenberry's fault that characters keep saying very, very.
Oh my gosh.
The writer in me just cringes when I hear that. It's like you don't need the.
And it's all through the
those
show.
Adjectives. There's at least 2 instances of it. Are there more?
No, there's more.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
But I want to think Roddenberry wrote that, and that DC Fontana would have never, in her wildest dreams, written very, very in a script. That's an awesome shot.
Yeah.
That's wonderfully dramatic and kind of ahead of its time. Like, you get that kind of shot a lot more mid-series. You know what I'm talking about? The push-in. Sorry, for folks that aren't watching the show with us, the push-in on the bridge, right on the captain, starting from underneath and coming up.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
This is weird. The underneath shot?
Underneath shot.
Underneath his head?
I also... I
Smack dab in the middle of the frame is his Adam's apple.
I do wish... I do wish we did more with the ceiling, like, later in the show.
It looks cool.
It looks really cool.
One, I always wondered if it was removable, because a lot of sets, you don't have a ceiling, so that you can do, like, crane shots and get real high and all of that.
Yeah.
but you see the
What the
ceiling
heck is this guy?
more here than in a lot of shows. Dude, we change out Khan and what am I trying to say? The driving station. We changed that out like 55 times in the pilot.
Yeah. I do.
And you
like
said
how,
shift change, but I don't buy shift change.
Yeah.
Because it happens so much.
I do like how, on this side of the thing.
Man in a skirt.
That was a man in a skirt.
That was a man in a skirt. And Troy has like black canary boots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what?
I do like how, like on this side of the bridge, everyone wears a red suit, and then on this side of the bridge, everyone's wearing a yellow suit. Like
You mean that's on purpose?
On the yeah, like the ops, or not the ops, but what, or
the con section.
The con is yellow, and it's here too.
Yeah, no, ops is behind you.
Yeah, ops.
Ops is also the weapon station.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then the driving is a red suit in here, but like.
So again, the thing, it's really counterintuitive and strange, to open your show. I mean, it's nice to do kind of the in medias res thing, where it's like we're on our way to this mission, and suddenly there's this big. Crazy galactic, like intergalactic threat, right?
Yeah.
There's this cosmic entity that's messing with us. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to fight it. But it's not giving us any time to be introduced to these characters. We don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah.
I
think it just, I think it's more, it's less, look at all these characters, and more, look at all the cool stuff this ship can do.
That's it. This is a toy commercial right now. We're opening this like a Power Rangers show.
Yeah.
Which is a thought I never had before, but we kind of are, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can kind of understand. I mean, think about it. 15 minutes, we've had 2 bridges. Before this, with Star Trek, could you have imagined you have a Star Trek show where in 15 minutes you have 2 bridges?
Yeah, that's.
But you can see why. Sorry, I watched the sequence and it's got just the theme song in its entirety. Like we're playing this almost like a music video, where we just have to find things to shoot for the duration of the theme song.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining a different Star Trek show called Star Trek: Saucer Sep. But it looks really cool.
It looks really cool.
As dumb as the front of the drive section is without the saucer.
I also
it's
just
got
love
the
how
lip.
Picard just stares. Like everyone's just staring there.
It's very convincing, though. But what I was going to say a minute ago is, you can see why kids wanted to play with toys from this show.
Yeah.
You can see why the Playmate stuff was successful.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of a toy commercial right now. And on paper, some of these characters are colorful and potentially kind of exciting in a way that I'm sad to say, like, some of the Voyager and Enterprise characters weren't right away. You know, seemed a little bit more bland, a little bit more, roll a d20 and come up with a character concept. But, like, we're going to have a cast of, really commanding, older gentlemen that is principled, seems to know what he's doing. I mean, I don't know how principled he seems in the first episode so much as just a principal. Mm-hmm. But then you're gonna have a telepath, you're gonna have a Klingon on the bridge, which is of course a big deal. You're gonna have a blind man who drives the ship, kind of a fun irony. And it helps you make a big deal out of things are better in the future. You know. He's a minority, and he's got a physical impairment, and it doesn't stop him from doing anything he wants to in life, right?
Is this a redress set?
No, I believe the Battle Bridge is a standing set that they don't use very often because it was too expensive to do saucer set. So we hardly ever do it.
See, I thought it was a redress of the motion picture set.
You know what? I wish Adam was here because he'd be able to tell us.
Yeah.
Well, it's too small to be that sad.
I think it is.
It doesn't look more than, like, time and again a shuttle set, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not confident in saying that for sure. But if it is a redress of something, they're able to put it back together each time, because we do see it a few times.
Yeah.
And then, of course, besides the ship itself, the most, like, the blocking here is hilarious. Like, why do they choose to stand like that?
Yeah.
I guess Q set them up that way.
No, I think it's because they were sitting like that in the on the ship.
Oh, it just looks a lot more dramatic without chairs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll retract that complaint, but I was just gonna say the most iconic thing in this episode, besides the ship itself, is the judges' robes.
Yeah.
And then one of the smartest moves they made aesthetically later on, of course, was just not having Troy in this version of the outfit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the catsuit isn't great either, but she doesn't even look like she's wearing a uniform. Like, it's a uniform, but, like, it's got short shorts and it's got a short sleeve shirt. She's wearing a headband.
Yeah.
Like, she looks like she's going to the pool.
Yeah.
She looks like she's going to go sunbathing. Cinema Arts, Worf was such a nothing character at first, which is funny because Yar kind of was also, and yet even with background and stuff, they gave her more. They just didn't give the actress anything to do.
Yeah.
And John Delancey as a movie projector.
Dun, 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 dun.
It sounds like a Roger Corman movie.
Yeah.
I like his line reading there.
Mm-hmm.
Spiner, when he says at least we're acquainted with the judge. So yeah, you just don't get more Roddenberry than this idea that we're gonna open our show with a god putting humanity on trial for being inferior and not being as enlightened as they think they are, and going too far out into the universe. There is a big why now question. I mean, one of the things that makes this pilot really awkward is the inciting incident.
Yeah.
I don't understand why Q or the Q have taken this moment to do this to, members of humanity.
Yeah.
Given that it's not like Starfleet hasn't been functioning for a long time, and this is the Enterprise D's maiden voyage, but we've got ships out there.
Yeah.
Is there a threshold where if we penetrate it out too far, the Q show up and tell us that we shouldn't go any farther?
Yeah. I feel like yours kind of written as being kind of mad all the time.
Yes. But so's Picard, so.
Yeah.
And Data's written as a 5-year-old, so I mean, it's fine.
Yeah. I feel like here, at least in the pilot, they just kind of all have their character traits. And then, like...
What do you mean?
Like, every character has its, just, like, big character trait.
Like the one prevailing character trait.
Yeah, and they don't really, like, Worf's a Klingon.
Worf growls.
Yeah. Data is a robot.
Yeah.
Picard is old.
Yeah.
Yar's mad all the time.
Kind of crotchety.
Yeah. Troy just talks about people's feelings.
Yeah. Troy says things you can tell just by looking at a person.
Yeah. Wesley's a kid. Geordi's blind. Like, that's pretty much all they do with any of the characters.
Acting. So... I mean, she has a good reason to be angry here, Jayson, but she's it's a little over the top. She's excited to get something to play.
Yeah.
So she's losing her mind. I do like that we're reestablishing both the point of the Federation, why it operates the way it does. I want to think that's foreshadowing of her death, but of course it's not. But But we established that, but also that we established like how much better off we are now than in the future in the 24th century than we got to not too far after the time that we're living in when the show comes out in 87, right?
Yeah.
So Roddenberry is attempting to show us why we no longer have like conflict and disease and homelessness and all of that, because he's saying like humanity has not hit bottom yet.
Yeah.
And so, society will get to that place, but don't worry, we can and will rise above it.
Yeah.
And I think in his mind, it's okay that there's not a lot of conflict in this show, because he is showing us that human beings are still human beings, but have figured out how to get past those things.
Yeah.
And maybe like, well, you're showing us some character drama in fighting what we used to be. But the problem is you can't sustain that through a show. You can't keep doing it every episode.
Yeah. What do you think is the worst Q episode?
The worst Q episode?
Mm-hmm.
Of TNG?
Of TNG.
Yeah, because the worst Q episode is not in TNG. But
really?
It's, yeah, because like Q-less isn't good, and Q2 isn't good.
Q2 is not good.
Q in the Gray kind of sucks, and yeah. But
Q in the Gray is not great at all.
It's probably either, I mean, I know you like Hide and Q, but for my money, it's either that or True Q.
What's True Q?
True Q is with Amanda, the girl who doesn't know she's a Q.
Oh, I like that one.
Whose parents got killed in a tornado in Kansas.
I actually do like that one.
I love this line. Bringing the innocent to trial would be unfair. Something I don't think Farpoint gets enough credit for, because we talk a lot, TNG fans, about how there's kind of an evolution of Q, and there's kind of like, people talk about it like 3 different stages of Q, like, Q, the judge, and then the imp that's messing with us. They're kind of the same thing, kind of not. And then, the hero that's actually just trying to help us, protect us. There's an element of that with the revelation at the end of this episode. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you agree? That it kind of plays like it's supposed to be a big reveal that Q is actually maybe kind of on our side. Like he's throwing us a bone. He's hoping that we'll manage and do the right thing, but he's doing it under the guise of a cold and compassionless god.
Yeah.
Reaper. Joel Sunnex do all the Star Trek pilots, Cap. Eventually
we'll get to all of them. We might even do some new Trek.
Oh my goodness. I hadn't even thought of that.
I mean, we could.
We want to do old and new stuff, so
we
yeah.
can do whatever we want to.
That's true. Well, that's why I hesitate, because I don't want to, but we might, right. we might do that. So, the way Picard talks himself out of this is pretty good. A lot of people, when this aired, especially big TOS fans that were hoping for something more like Kirk, were really put off by Picard's first big command decision on the battle bridge being that he Data just doing Picard's way. And he hardly ever does this later.
Does Data do this at all later?
Not regularly. There's a couple places where he does, and we play it for a joke. But here it's like just a normal, regular thing he does.
Yeah.
He does it at the beginning of Brothers.
And Data does act like Lore a lot in this episode.
Yeah, well, he's channeling what Brent Spiner will channel when he does Lore. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is he says we surrender. His first big command decision is he surrenders to the enemy.
Yeah.
Just gives up, isn't fighting right away.
Yeah.
Now, you could argue, what was he going to do? What was he supposed to do?
Right.
And the way it plays is kind of, he's hoping he can talk his way out of it and be a diplomat. And Picard will, of course, be known very much for diplomacy later. But I don't think he could possibly know what was going to happen. I mean, he didn't know he was going to meet up with Q.
Yeah.
He didn't know Q was going to be behind all of this.
Yeah.
I always forget that the setting for this is supposed to be early 21st century Kangaroo Court.
Yeah.
I always think it's just a really surreal court that Q put together because he's just being creepy and messing with people. I always forget that it's supposed to actually be in the history. So the assumption is they give a date, don't they? Isn't it like 2080 something or
no? It's 2035 or something.
Okay.
Like it's like.
So that puts it around the same time. This is all retroactive, of course, but that puts it around the same time as Past Tense.
Yeah.
In DS9, have you seen that?
No.
Where Cisco goes back in time and becomes a figure in history where you have like massive homelessness in San Francisco, and you have people cordoned off in sections, kind of like almost like an Arkham City situation or something, except they didn't do anything wrong and there's not any place for them.
Yeah.
So this would be around the same time as that. So O'Brien gets dialogue,
yeah,
but he's not even named yet. So I wonder what his name was in the script.
Khan, probably.
Maybe so. Because he doesn't mean like Khan Nooney and Singh. He means.
But everyone's calling him Khan, so like.
Yeah, but I wonder if he had a like made up name that they actually changed later, or he's probably not O'Brien from the beginning. So we're finally being introduced to Riker.
Yeah.
Doesn't this feel like two completely unrelated episodes just sandwiched together?
Yeah, and I honestly like the Q stuff a bit better.
Yeah, no disrespect to DC Fontana, rest in peace, but I agree, I'm sorry to say.
Mm-hmm. I do like this plot, but they slapped the Q stuff on.
Do you like this plot? I mean, can you explain this plot?
It's very TOS.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, like, having a guy in a place, and then him being like, it's very like, oh, what's going on with the, like, creature or something, who's he talking to?
Yeah, you have this suspicious character that has something we want that is potentially good for the Federation, but at what cost? Mm-hmm. Can we trust him? And then it turns out, of course, that we can. Uh-huh. The problem is, they don't make it enough of a mystery. Like, you don't know what exactly he's doing, but why do we stay with him in this scene after Riker leaves?
Because that's what we would have done in TOS.
That's exactly right. But I'd like a little bit more of a sense that maybe we can trust this guy, and he's just too shady and flaky in the first place.
Yeah, that's true.
He also just looks creepy.
Yeah.
So I'm not real surprised when he turns out to be, using a space alien for his own ends and sort of torturing a creature. Also, isn't that weird? Because this is sort of in a weird way, it's like an animal rights activist plot. Yeah. Is it not? Or like anti-animal cruelty plot.
Yeah.
He's forcing this space entity to be a station or whatever. Mm-hmm. Never completely understood what's happening at the end of this. And then it turns out that it's got a mate. We do that all over TNG, where it's like, here's a space entity, and it happens to have a mate, or it has a child, or whatever it is.
Yep. And
then hilariously, when you get the space jellyfish at the end, one of their mates, so one is blue and one is pink. Yeah. So you have the male and the female,
yeah,
which is hilarious.
And of course, they have to visit the mall, because it's the 80s.
Because it's the 80s. There's a lot of sexual innuendo in this scene that we've already talked over, but
I'm not sure why.
it's pretty messed up. Yeah, and I had never noticed that before, or I didn't remember it. But like immediately when Riker meets her, he's like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he says something that seems very much like he's not just talking about spending time with her. It's hilarious. See, I don't know why she doesn't trust him right away or isn't even listening at all to what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's her commanding officer. He's been here a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, look, there's something really weird going on down here, okay? Like, I wanted apples. There weren't apples. Now there's apples. She's like, leave me alone about this. I don't care. And then she wants fabric, and now there's fabric. And she goes, okay. I'm going to listen to you now. Doesn't that make her seem a little bit hypocritical when later on the bridge, Wesley knows that something bad is going on, and Picard won't listen, and then she goes, see, Wesley knew! I'm like, well, you didn't pay attention to Riker either.
Yeah.
Cinema Arts, if it's true that Wesley is based on Roddenberry as a teenager, that explains so much. I don't know why Riker treats Geordi like this, except just, trying to be professional, I guess. But he seems like he's being a little bit of a hard-ass.
Yeah.
Where he's like, wait a minute, is this an official... I didn't say you could be at ease, Geordi.
Come on, Geordi.
I'm going to be fair, like, they don't really know each other yet.
Yeah.
And I guess I like that they're not too familiar yet. And we can kind of gradually build that.
Yeah. Is the Big Man effect different? Like, I feel like it's a bit slower.
A little bit. They change it slightly as the series goes on. I'm sorry, but the lip and
okay, that looks
just
really
makes it look
dumb.
really silly, and it probably looks sillier when we haven't spent very much time with the ship.
Yeah.
But like, as awkward as this pilot is, and it is awkward, they get so much of the visual stuff right from the beginning that they don't really have to mess with too much later, which was surprising and remarkable. And thank God for the Okudas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, naturally, this is going to be a different exercise for different pilots we do. Because we're talking about this very much in hindsight because we know the show very well. A lot of the pilots we do will be us getting our feet wet in a show and speculating. And going, I wonder if this will pay off. Or I wonder if this character will remain like this. And I love this character now. I'm afraid that he's probably a red herring that dies in the second episode. It'll be a lot of that.
Yeah.
We will not be anywhere close to experts on every show we do.
Yeah. We definitely won't. I think this might be like one of the only ones for a while we might not be like true like experts on. I
don't mean to say I'm an expert, but closer on this than anything else that we could possibly talk about.
I think we'll do. I think we'll have some shows that we've definitely watched before, but we're not like very familiar with it. Okay, this is the dumbest thing in the whole show.
I hate this trope on television so much, and TOS did it a lot too, but I feel like by 87 we should have been past this. I mean, is the thing you're saying stupid what I'm gonna say? Just that they're watching a TV show?
He's just watching the pilot.
It's Spaceballs, right? It's like they rewound the tape and they're watching the movie that we're watching.
Yeah.
All the way to, like, it's the same dramatic pushes because they're just watching the same shots that were shot. How difficult is it to just... Because you've got a script, you know what you're going to shoot, so just shoot all these scenes with another camera that's supposed to be a... We're lingering on the shot for a long time with Riker. You know what I wish that line was?
Huh.
I wish he turned around and he said what Christian Bale says in Batman Begins. He went, "That's damn good television." But like, you can't have a surveillance camera. You know?
Yeah.
Just shoot some of those scenes from the ceiling.
Yeah.
And it's silly all the way to he's watching a shot from space.
Yeah.
Where's the camera?
I love how he's like when he's very strict with everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like he presses the button for someone to talk, and he's just like, go.
Yeah. He's just no nonsense.
Yeah.
And I like that if the idea is he's going to loosen up over time, but here's the problem. We're not expecting any gradual change from these characters because it's 87, it's an episodic TV show, you expect to be able to watch them in any order at any time you sit down. So you cannot trust, like it would be a big cool novelty if the idea was there will be a slow burn and characters will be allowed to change and grow. And in some ways they are in this show. But you don't know that going in. And so, if Picard seems stolid and kind of dour and doesn't get along with anybody, or isn't, making any connections with anybody, your fear is going to be, I'm going to have to watch this guy for a whole 26 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this is the way Riker interprets Picard's instructions for this scene. So Picard says, I want you to go dock with the saucer manually. And I'm going, why? Like, he's just putting him through his paces? Is he just making sure he's got the right first officer? I can't even tell if Picard picked Riker as his first officer. Retroactively, we will, whether it's a retcon or otherwise, we will say that he did.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that comes up in Pegasus or if it's even well before that, but
there's an episode that I watched very recently where they talk about it.
Okay.
But I can't remember.
You forget which one it was. But then, even if that's what it is, the way Riker interprets it is I'm supposed to go be in command of the manual dock. And the person who's really doing it is O'Brien. Riker's not actually doing this. And then everybody kind of pats him on the back, like the president sending people off to war or something. It's like, you didn't actually do it yourself. We're not giving credit at all to the guy that did it.
Yeah, O'Brien did it. What are you...
Yeah.
Like, he just said words. Like, he didn't do anything.
Thrusters only while in space dock, Captain. AMC, I really like the premise for this new series. Thank you. He says, can't wait for some... For a second, I thought he meant TNG. I can't wait for some animated ones, especially Teen Titans, X-Men Evolution, and Legion of Superheroes. Yes. Wait, he's getting... we definitely are going to do some animated shows. Are you thinking what I'm thinking right now? He's getting his tea out of a Mr. Fusion.
That's funny. I do like the futuristic mug though, where it doesn't have a handle. Like it's just it's weird.
Makura, the pilot makes it seem like Riker and Picard were brought together by assignment. It really does. It seems like he doesn't trust him. He is seeing what he's made of, trying to figure out what his metal is. He's kind of treating him like he's too young and inexperienced and wet behind the ears, which is the way they talk about him in Best of Both Worlds, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, he's talking about how he's presumptuous.
I always forget that this conversation actually happens in the show.
Like, they're talking directly about the fact that Kirk always beamed down and put himself in danger for no good reason.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that we're updating that. And like, it makes sense in 87, where, like, just in general, everybody's more careful about stuff, and we're thinking more about security and things like that.
And, I mean, what's really funny about it is, in Best of Both Worlds, he actually finally comes down, and then he becomes a Borg.
That's a great point. It's like but he didn't beam over.
Right.
He got abducted.
Right.
That is kind of funny, though. It's like, Riker was right. This is the reason the captain can't leave the ship.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the first time he ever beamed down or anything,
right.
But he doesn't typically. And it's usually a situation where we already have a, like, diplomatic relationship with a species. Or something like that. It's not, we know there's probably danger. Or there might be something horribly dangerous. We're not going to beam the captain down in a situation like that. That is a really awkward exchange. This one is too.
This is honestly more awkward.
Okay, go ahead.
Just the fact that he just just the fact that the doctor just tells him like all the stuff that he has probably already been told before, where he can get a procedure or something. Right?
What is special about her versus any other doctor he's ever talked to? That seems like a kind of forced way to get that exposition to the audience, where they're trying not to seem clunky about it, but it comes off kind of clunky. And it sucks to be LeVar Burton because he cannot see out of that thing. And he'll have to wear it for 7 seasons.
Can he not?
No.
Like, is it just...
It's uncomfortable and impossible to see out of.
Like, are there actually, like, holes at all?
I would assume there's a little bit of visibility, but apparently it's very minimal. And LeVar Burton does not seem like a guy who complains about much. So if he's complaining about it, it must have been bad.
Yeah.
It's literally the only thing... It's one of 2 things I've ever heard him complain about. The other one is the director of Star Trek Nemesis calling him Laverne instead of LeVar. And that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk about your reaction to the makeup here.
Yeah. I think it's kind of weird that they don't say that it's McCoy. Like, I think you can definitely figure out, like, yeah, that's definitely McCoy, just the way he's talking and his dialogue and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't, like...
The makeup is so caked on, it doesn't really look like him.
It doesn't really look like him, so...
But I also appreciate that it's that thick because, I mean, how old would he have to be right now?
Right.
Like, it's been 80 years, so he's well over 100.
Yeah, he's 137.
Oh, that's right, he does say it.
That, yeah.
He does say it.
Well, Data said it, but yeah.
What's really funny is, I love this exchange, and I love the thing about, you know, you sound like a Vulcan, but you don't have any pointed ears, and somehow it doesn't play too sappy.
Yeah.
When he says, when he's kind of waxing nostalgic and says, you know, be good to the ship and she'll always get you home and all of that. Like, it's the perfect, you know, spin-off connection. And honestly, I think it's necessary. I think it's the thing that most helps it to feel like it's in the same universe.
Yeah.
Like, I think you really, really need that scene. And I like that it doesn't drag on too long. I like that he's not, like, hanging out on the bridge watching stuff happen. That's an Excelsior class. I kind of forgot we had that in the pilot.
Does that end the first part? Like, is this the second part? Or is this still part of the first part?
This would be getting into the second part, I think. Now, I will say... Yeah, no, because Excelsior we get all the way back in Search for Spock, right?
Yep.
I like the shot of Q's head in front of the planet.
I do too.
Actually, it looks really cool.
He has become part of the screen.
I am not a fan of Mark I phasers. And I'm glad they don't use them very often. Because they just look really silly. Worf was pointing one at Q's translucent head, like he was gonna be able to do anything with that. Worf, you're aiming a phaser at a view screen, buddy.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Mark 1s are the flat ones.
Oh, the ones that don't curve? Yeah.
They kind of curve. I don't even know what to say they look like, but they're kind of smooth and they just look really uncomfortable to hold.
Yeah.
And I think they maybe fit in a larger one or something. I forget now.
Kind of like TOS.
Maybe I'm thinking of TOS phasers when I say that.
Because
but anyway,
TOS phasers do that.
Yeah, but the iconic ones are the Mark IIs.
Yeah.
I. So yeah, when you say each character has Picard, why do you
What
have
the
child
heck is that?
placemats?
What is that?
What
I
is it?
Really want to know what that
He
is.
looks like he's gonna learn about triangles in his colors.
It looks like a board game.
Like, is that supposed to be a pad?
I don't know. I mean, he's resting his hands on it. Like, he's not even...
Or maybe he's coaching high school basketball. He's gonna
Yeah.
he's gonna get his plays written down. Okay, Riker, I need you to go up court and
Over here.
over here. Some of the sound effects are real off in the pilot, and I'm glad that they changed them.
Yeah.
You know, some of them just sound kind of pathetic. Like the door chime,
Yeah.
which later will be "ba-da-da-da," and then here it's like "ba-da-da." It just kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Kind of trails off.
Oh, AMC, what
Yeah.
Star Trek series do you think has the best pilot?
So there's not a lot of competition because they're almost all bad.
Yeah.
But
I'd say DS9 or
is-
Enterprise.
it probably actually, at the end of the day, still is the Cage.
Well, yeah, I didn't even think about the cage.
But for modern shows, before you get to New Track, it is Deep Space Nine. Oh, I don't know why we have organ music here, but okay. Or sort of organ music. I mean, it's synthesized organ music. Anyway, and then if I had to do it for New Trek, it's Strange New Worlds, which actually has an okay pilot.
Yeah.
Roboter's hot take Deep Space Nine did not do much for me. Oh wow, don't get me wrong, aspects and some characters I really do enjoy, but TOS, TNG, along with the original movies, are my wheelhouse. Yeah, I mean, it's just if it's just not your thing.
It's a very different show.
But it's just a lot more sophistication in
like
stories and characters, and it's just a more challenging show, I think.
I like it about as...
Overall, there's a lot of good, challenging, singular episodes of TNG. Apologies.
I like it about as much as I like, the other shows, and to be fair, I have only seen select episodes, and we're still...
We gotta get you into that.
Yeah,
Get you going. You're like halfway through one.
I'm halfway through one, so...
Hey, I think you should go to a convention dressed as Groppler Zorn.
Oh my gosh.
So, Zorn has name-dropped the Ferengi.
Yep.
Who, according to the pilot... I'm gonna go this far. He talks about the Ferengi like they're Discovery Klingons. You know? Like they're all scary and in the background, and they eat people. Mm-hmm. They apparently are cannibals.
Yeah.
That never comes up again.
She says pain a lot in this pilot.
She does. You get the sense that she really needs to go hang out with Cybok so that he can take her pain.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't seem to want or need her pain, Jason.
Yeah. So, I don't know how she, senses, who she's sensing or anything. I don't know.
It's the jellyfish.
Right, but, how does she figure out, how does she know what she's sensing? She's
what do you mean?
I'm not sensing Groppler or any of his people. How do you know that? You're just sensing feelings. I don't really know how her powers work.
I don't know how the I don't know how the proximity of her to other things works exactly, but they're pretty consistent about that through the show, where a Betazoid can kind of tell where the feelings are coming from, they're directed. So if she is, and to be fair, being half Betazoid, it's empathy and not telepathy, but full Betazoids are fully telepathic.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
And that guy just looks like Vorik from Voyager.
Yeah. I think it's really funny how he is just going around, the whole ship, just being where's Data? This whole pilot, he's just where's Data? Also, this computer program is kind of weird, because we don't really it's not really how it works later.
It's super impractical, and that's probably why they never do it again. But what if 5 people at the same time need to use the wall to tell them where to go? And keep in mind that this is like kind of a luxury cruise liner.
Yeah.
Which is still weird, and I've still never really understood the idea of we're going to go on these deep space missions, but we're bringing kids and families with us. It's almost like we wanted that to be Picard's prevailing character trait.
Yeah.
It's like he's not good at families, he's not good at kids, so let's put a bunch on the ship. But like, how much sense does that really make?
I mean, I don't think it was his choice, but like, yeah.
But what I mean is, how much sense does it make? I don't know if this is true, but it feels like a retroactive decision based on his character. It was like, well, we want him to not like kids, so let's put kids on the ship. And it's like,
it wasn't, but yeah.
Yeah.
He, I think Roddenberry had like a meeting with someone, I can't remember who, but he was just like,
that's just part of his utopian thing, probably.
He wanted it with TOS, but
oh, I didn't know that. But I'm sorry, real quick, what were we talking about? The arrows pointing places. So like, you would have people on the ship all the time that don't know how to get around. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that you would have a way to point them places. But the way that worked was he tells the wall, I need to go find Data, and then the wall's like, here's how to find him, and then gives you, or here's where he is. And so if you don't know how to get there, it's got dots pointing you.
Yeah.
All over the ship. What if somebody else needs to use it?
Yeah. I always thought that this is just how we introduce Data. Like, I mean, I guess it doesn't really make sense once you know, but like, I always thought it was just how you introduce him.
I think that's because in documentaries and things, it's the scene that is always shown.
Yeah.
When we're talking about, you know, Data and in his introduction in the show. It's also the most Brent Spiner he is in the pilot.
Yeah.
And therefore the most lore-ish he seems in the face.
I love how he's like, Starfleet class of 78.
I like the part where he says prejudice is very human. I'm reading infighting in the script between 2 different writers.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, I think, I don't know for sure, I think Fontana wrote this scene and not Roddenberry. Mm-hmm. Because Roddenberry is trying to say humanity has gotten over a lot of its vices and is enlightened now. Mm-hmm. Would he write the line, prejudice is very human?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think the quote-unquote utopia works if humanity is not constantly fighting its baser instincts and what it's always been.
Yeah.
Like, that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it endearing, is we do have these flaws. We are in some ways defined by our flaws, but we can overcome them. That doesn't mean that they go away. And that's the thing that DS9 got right, I think, over a lot of other Star Trek.
Yeah. Also, the holodeck works a lot different.
A lot differently. They have not figured it out yet. And it turns into an Atari game if you throw things at...
Yeah. More like Super Nintendo, but yeah. It's...
So is this all Mode 7? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh, no.
Here comes Wesley.
That Pinocchio joke, though, like...
It just doesn't seem like a thing that he would come up with in the moment the way he does.
Okay, that was not him. That was a stunt double.
But that's also a real kind of classic TOS thing, and TNG kind of harps on this pretty heavy a lot, where we got to seem more sophisticated by going to as many like literary references as popular, but we pick all the popular stuff.
Yeah.
Did I say as popular or as possible? I meant to say as possible.
Okay, I think you said as possible.
Did I say as possible? I might have said that. But we tend to go to the really popular stuff.
Oh.
So they come out of the holodeck and they're getting water everywhere. There's an episode not too long from now where Wesley will throw a snowball out of the holodeck, and the explanation for that early on, like we kind of just got, is that we're replicating stuff on the holodeck, and it's not all lights and force fields like it will be later.
Yeah.
But it just, in some ways, it kind of makes sense that it would be a mixture of both. But then it's like, how much of it is replicated? How much space is there really on the holodeck to do that? Like, it seems like it would limit you.
Yeah.
And then they change that real hard later. And then the whole franchise will change how long holodecks have even existed. Because when you get to Voyager, Janeway has been on the holodeck as early as when she was a little kid.
Yeah.
But this is everybody's introduction to it.
Yeah.
Robotters, I actually thought they treated the New Enterprise with families as a show of... I don't know what this means. Of we're willing to explore, but these missions are way more for exploring than being a tactile warship capable of fights. Yeah, but it's just you're gonna be in too many really dangerous situations going to deep space. And even if you launch with it and you're just naive enough to think that it's not gonna be too dangerous, every week something's trying to kill us.
Yeah.
You'd think after a season of this, all the seasons would, all the families would leave.
Yeah. Okay, this set makes me mad.
Because they keep reusing it?
They keep reusing it, and later they'll go to a completely different place, and it's the exact same set. They don't change anything about it. And they're like, oh, this looks a lot similar to when we were down here. Yeah. It's because it's the same set. And they'll go through this hallway, and then it'll be the same set. And it's just like the same thing over and over again.
It's sort of like when you beam over to another ship, and you go, this is the Enterprise's sister ship. And it's the exact same bridge. One Riker, one bridge. Okay, riddle me this.
Yeah.
If you didn't look at any advertising, and you just watched this pilot in 87 when it airs... Mm-hmm. Can you tell who the main characters are supposed to be and who the, like, maybe recurring or just one-time characters are going to be? Like, you would think, even though he's not named yet, O'Brien could be main cast.
Yeah.
How would you know? He gets enough screen time.
He gets enough screen time. Honestly, I would think that, like, Geordi and Worf wouldn't be there all the time.
I don't think you can tell that Worf is going to be a man.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, Yar is supposed to be more important than him, and he's kind of just supposed to be, there on the bridge.
Yeah.
So he becomes more important later, but he's still main cast in the intro as far as I remember. I wasn't looking for his name, but do they show Michael Dorn in the intro?
I don't know.
Do we get his name as main cast? I'm not sure.
I know we say also starring for LeVar Burton, which I think is weird.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's not a place.
Are they playing 20 questions?
It's an octopus.
We are inside an octopus, folks. We better go back to where we were already. The problem is the angle of it, right? And I think it's because some of this is probably matte painting. Don't you figure?
Yeah.
That's probably not all a set.
I'm not sure.
Well, you remember there's that place later where you can't tell how much of the background is not there, and you keep waiting for them to step over a threshold, and they never do?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it when we get there. Okay, we've been talking about awkward scenes. This is the most awkward scene.
It's the most awkward, yeah.
Maybe in the series. Maybe in anything I've ever seen. No, I'm kidding. I'm being hyperbolic when I say that, but...
There's a lot of new Trek that's a...
Well, I don't want... Yeah, but... Picard does not remember this scene later in the show the way it happens here.
Really?
Yeah. There's a... I think it's in... I'm a little rusty right now, but I think it's in First Duty, maybe, where he says, do you remember the first time you came on the bridge? You even sat in my chair. I was annoyed. I'm like, you offered him the seat. You're not remembering how that scene went down. Like, you don't remember the first time he was on the bridge. Now, like, some of this works okay. The start of it's all right.
Yeah.
You know, where like it's a little sad. They're playing it a little soap opera maybe, but like,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of a sad situation. It's nice to know that bad things still happen to people, even in, you know, this future dystopia. So you get the sense that maybe we can have some exciting stories.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have but again, it's all kind of soap opera stuff. You have Riker and Troy, who used to be together but are broken up, but they have this connection. That's recycled from Motion Picture and the Unmade Phase 2. Because do you know about that?
No.
Well, it's exactly the same situation as Ilea and Decker.
Oh.
And she is another hot chick from another race who has superpowers.
Yeah.
And then you have, you know, this old relationship with Picard and Crusher, but they weren't actually romantic, even though you get the sense that maybe they would be, you know, later on. And he feels bad for the death of Jack Crusher. She doesn't seem to blame him for it, but I always... There's novels that kind of deal with it more that way, and you kind of... They hint at it here and there a little bit, but you kind of wish that it was more full-blown, you know, what it was. Where, like, he's not just the... played as the messenger. Because I think the idea is that he actually gives an order. Where am I getting this from? I can't remember. I thought maybe the idea was supposed to be that he actually gives an order that sends Jack Crusher to his death, and it isn't just that he has to tell her that he died.
Oh.
But I don't know if I'm right about that. But anyway, and then the bit where Crusher, you know, is pressing buttons he's not supposed to, and then he's like, but there's a bad thing happening. I know what the signal means. And then Picard's all, get off my bridge.
Yeah.
It's very awkward.
Okay, so
it's cringe-inducing.
why is there just a random UFO? Like,
because it's
Star
the
Trek.
underside of a space jellyfish.
Right, but like, it's Star Trek.
You just don't want anything to look like this in Star Trek?
I think it's weird. It's not Star Trek.
Because it looks like a UFO that would be in an episode of The Simpsons?
Yeah.
You made the point while we were watching this before that Crusher is... Or that Wesley Crusher is played like he is 4 years younger than he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely right. I've always thought that too.
Yeah.
That he looks like he's 16, 17, but he's acting like he's 11.
Yeah.
It's all just way too typical. And then you can tell right away they're playing him as the genius kid.
Yep. And, I mean, that's how all the advertising was, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's going to go all the way to he's going to rise to a new level of being for humanity. You know, like, he's going to ascend.
Yeah, you think?
HB Haga, Delton, another empath. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of weird that Troy's not just a Delton. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you're probably not going to get an actress to shave her head for a whole show. So, you know. Makura Season 1 has a few people make a few steps out of the holodeck, and then there's that Moriarty program that is sentient, and they presumably are still trying to find a way for him to leave the deck. Yes, but... Oh, yeah. They can walk out a few steps. I forgot that ever happens. But by the time that we do ship in a bottle, we've kind of cemented it that you can't leave the holodeck. Mm. To the point where if you have a hologram that puts his hand up to the threshold of a holodeck.
Yeah.
Sometimes it stops it, and sometimes it disappears. It really just depends on the episode of the show. Oh no, the old Bandy City. Oh, man, look out, they're gonna get Bandy Syndrome.
So, yeah, I can't tell if that is a screen.
The old western town?
or if that's supposed to be, because like the way it's shot, it kind of just looks like a screen.
But it also looks like a set. It looks like you could walk over into it.
It does. So I'm not sure. I really can't tell.
Thomas Lowe, was Wesley Crusher always unlikable in the show? He's got a couple of really good episodes. He gets better as it goes along, and then he also gets worse in the last season.
Is he in the last season?
He's in like one episode. He's in the... can we get another take of that line, Marina Sirtis? Because I don't know about that. If you should be hurt... he's in the episode with the Native American colonists.
Yeah.
And that's when he finally leaves with the Traveler, and Thomas Lowe says it's always weird to me he's missing in all the TNG movies. That's because they probably thought they'd have to do a big story where, like, you know, he comes back as an energy being or something, and, you know, he has a cameo in Nemesis where he doesn't get to say anything. He just sits at a table. I think he actually had a line or two, but they cut it. Makura, hot take, Wesley is fine, never bothers me, people are just mean. The issue is not the acting, the issue is the writing. I mean, like Jason said, he's just written too young, and so he's being played that way. And once he's in his 20s, he's a lot better.
Yeah.
And then the problem is just that he's too perfect at everything.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. Go do a clearly illegal kidnapping.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, and then they don't go in. That's also what makes me be like, yeah, there's no way. Because they just run to it. They don't actually go in.
It cuts before they can walk over the threshold. But what if it is there and they just never took the opportunity to have them walk into it?
Yeah.
It's so weird. See, like, now at least you've got both plots converging, and, you know, you've had Q show up here and there, but it still feels like you're watching two completely separate episodes that are just trying to somehow be connected. I'm trying to think if I've seen that in too many other pilots before.
Yeah.
Where it's like, just too many cooks in the kitchen. We got all these ideas. We gotta sandwich them all together.
Yeah.
Robotters, his stuff when entering the academy is the best stuff. If you want him grounded and held accountable. Yep. That's the episode I was talking about earlier. That's the first duty, which is, I think, objectively his best episode. Final mission is pretty decent. I mean, I think there's some people that like it the best for him, but
Do you like Troy's hair here?
it's fine. I don't have a deep opinion usually about hairstyles, except for when I think they're really, really stupid, but it's fine. Why is Q the judge in this scene and not already wearing the Picard or the captain shirt? Like, do you think there's a thematic reason for that?
Yeah, because he's still like making fun of them and, like, you know, judging them and stuff.
He's trying to make his decision.
Yeah, and he's not
No, I like that if it's intentional.
Oh my gosh, this part's
That's
really
why I was
funny
asking. Oh yeah, when Data just shoots up. It's so good. Data and Riker's, as awkward as their initial meeting is, they're kind of getting to know each other here. Is kind of charming. I think it works pretty well.
Yeah.
Robert thinks I should do a Star Trek hair tier list.
Huh.
I'm thinking about doing a tier list for something Star Trek tomorrow, but I'm not sure what yet. I might do some episode titles. For, like, I'm thinking maybe like a season at a time.
Yeah.
Or something. Or I could rank like two-parters, or I don't know.
Ooh, yeah.
There's a lot of cool ways I could go with it.
Borg episodes.
Robert, wow, where would Picard rank? Oh, he'd be right at the top. S tier for hair, absolutely.
He doesn't have any.
Well, I can like S tier for consistency.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, eventually he won't have the white crown, but other than that, okay. Well, look, Grappler Zorn, you deserve this. Okay, so why does everybody immediately assume he was beamed and not disintegrated? Explain to me how you could tell.
I don't know.
How would you know for sure?
Yeah.
Q standing right there.
Yeah, and then in this scene, he becomes the captain.
Yes, yeah. I like that he does that from the start.
Yeah.
The big takeaway I had watching this again is Delancey is playing him more consistently to what he'll be later on than I remembered. And he does get some moments where he gets to be the imp and have fun and taunt them and all of that. Later on, he won't do the as creepy stuff with like trying to prove how barbaric the species is with we didn't talk about this when we were watching it, but with the soldier costume with the drugs. Yeah. He's like, I control them with drugs. Like, he doesn't do as much of that kind of stuff later.
Yeah, that part's funny.
And he's got this fixation with Riker already.
Yep. And then he gives up on Riker by second season.
So I have a question for you, Jason. Do you think Q should have, throughout the series, continued to have the kind of reverb, the kind of echo in his voice?
Huh?
Do you think... Did you just miss what I said? Do you think Q should have continued to have the reverb in his voice?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize he did.
Oh, okay.
That's why I wasn't...
I think it's a little heavier at the beginning, and then here it's still there, but it's taken back a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea that he could turn it on and off, but I think it's weird we never have him do it.
Yeah, he doesn't
hardly at all later.
Yeah.
If at all.
Yeah.
Dun Power Ranger, or Ranger Power, Q looked good as a United States Marine as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true, and maybe he should have brought that back occasionally. And I like the reason he does it, although it's also very Trelane. I mean, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Where Trelane's like, well, I wanted to look like a captain, like you. Except with Trelane, he's confused, because isn't that what it is with Trelane, where, like, he thinks the era is different than it is or something?
I think.
I forget. It's been a while since I watched that.
It's been forever since I watched. That's Squire of Gothos.
Squire of Gothos. Very good. TOS had a flair for episode titles, man.
TOS had some really good episodes.
And then New Trek often overdoes it and tries way too hard to do the flowery, poetic episode titles. And then TNG and DS9, and even Voyager sometimes would go for the, like, one-word, almost Smallville titles.
Yeah.
You get episodes like The Ship or Drive.
Drive?
There's a Voyager episode called Drive.
Oh, weird. The...
But at least they didn't have stuff like Discovery with context is for kings. They get worse than that too, by the way. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, and stuff like, what is that episode called? Season 2, The Child?
Yes, The Child. It's awkward. But at least they
kind of
make up a little bit, and he gets as close to apologizing for the Wesley thing as he can without, losing face. And you have to appreciate that. I keep saying awkward because it is. As awkward as it is, at least there is some actual character conflict.
Yeah.
Interpersonal conflict in the pilot.
Troy is serious there. She was just like...
I mean, Sirtis is giving her all... This looks awesome.
That looks really cool.
Meanwhile, back at this matte painting...
Yeah.
Jason's favorite set in the show.
It's the exact same place.
He loves it.
They
I'm
don't do
fascinated
anything.
by the fact that this show that we're making is too cheap.
Yeah, it's not. It's the same place.
But yeah, I'm kind of okay with her being able to sort of like direct it or
Yeah.
like tell where it's coming from. I don't think that's that big of a deal.
Yeah, I just don't know how it works.
No, I guess I don't either. But I mean, it's a Sixth Sense,
Yeah.
so I buy that I wouldn't understand how it works unless I had it.
Yeah.
So that's all right. That's the best data line of the pilot. Sorry, sir, I seem to be commenting on everything. I love how he looks like it's almost a mystery. He was like, I don't even understand my programming and why I'm acting like this. Like, it's irritating with self-aware, where it's like, well, you could just not have him act like that.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Makura, the best titles are when you ask a question and then answer it with an exclamation. Well, that's the anime thing.
Yeah.
Anime likes to do that all the time.
Anime does that a lot.
I also just want to put a question mark at the end of some episode titles, right? Like, for the world is hollow and I have touched the sky? Assignment Earth? Phantasms?
Honestly, that looked like a movie cover.
Like a horror movie cover?
No, like a Star Trek movie cover. Like when their heads were in it.
Oh, yeah.
Like it did.
Like a motion picture or a Search for Spock?
Yeah, or a Beatles album, but like
Yeah, that's great. AMC, for shows where the first episode aired isn't the pilot on the box set, which will you guys watch or review? Thanks. It'll be case by case. No, I mean, if there's a different aired order than production order, we'll watch the thing that was actually made first. Yeah.
yeah. Like, will we do the first? Like, will we do the Tribbles episode if we do TAS?
Was that the first one they made?
That was the first one they made.
Yeah,
It wasn't the first one we aired.
That's probably what we'd have to do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get as technically close to pilot as possible.
Yeah.
Like, one thing we need to mention about this is it's not always the same situation with a pilot. So, typically, what would happen with old broadcast television, it's different now with streaming, of course, is you'd make a pilot, or it's usually different. You'd make a pilot, and then you'd give it to the network, and then they would decide if they were going to take you to series or not. Mm-hmm. With something like this, there was an episode order as this was being made already. So they wouldn't make the pilot unless they got their 26 episodes. It wasn't based on this pilot. So it is the pilot only in name only, in that it's a first episode. But they did not make a pilot and then hope it would sell. That's not what happened in this case.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens. In the original series case, they had to make two different pilots, as a lot of you guys will already be aware of. Could we rewrite that line?
It is not that which is alive.
It is not that which sent us back. That sounds like something Riker would say.
Back.
That sounds like something anybody would say.
Okay, so is that one woman with a blonde hair? Is that a wig? That
Boy,
does
it
not,
looks like
that
it.
does not look like real hair.
They've had every single crew member on the ship, on the bridge,
Yeah.
in the scene. So I don't know why Q thought that this would be a good mission for them to undertake, or why he thought it would be like exciting. And he's like, it's more interesting than you could possibly imagine. And I'm like, is it?
Yeah.
It's weird the ways in which this is very self-aware or aware of the original series in the ways it's not, right? Like,
Yeah.
Q shows up and immediately Picard goes, man, we have dealt with a lot of entities like you in the past.
Yeah.
You know? So, point for self-awareness, right? Or point for remembering the history of this franchise.
Yeah.
And then Q's like, this is going to be a really interesting mission. I know it's coming. And they show it to us that it's really derivative.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now you're losing a point for that.
Yeah.
This all looks great. It's just very silly.
It is very silly.
Okay, Denise Crosby, you're looking at a giant jellyfish. Go.
I wonder if there's a list. I mean, there's gotta be, but I wonder if there's a list for everyone who's been in the captain's seat.
Yeah, probably so. Okay, so the reason this is supposed to be a good test on Q's to Q on Q's part is if Picard does the wrong thing here, if he doesn't just kill this thing, then it proves how savage the humans are. But I don't know, I feel like he could have come up with a way more tempting target, right?
Mm-hmm.
With some, like, he could have come up with a way more desperate situation. You know, much more of an us versus them thing or something. Shouldn't this have been more about sacrifice, maybe?
Yeah.
You know? Like, what are they gonna lose if they don't do the more barbaric thing, right?
Yeah.
Because most of the time, savagery comes from, or what he's talking about, like what we think of as savagery, comes from a couple of different things, right? It comes from either a lust of power, so you'll hurt another person to better your own ends. You know, like you cover what your, I can't say that, covet what your neighbor has, and you don't care what happens to them if you steal it, or if you kill that guy and take his stuff, right? Or it comes from self-preservation.
Yeah.
And this is that first thing, and not even enough of that first thing.
Yeah.
Right? The Federation doesn't have enough to gain from doing the horrible savage thing here.
Yeah.
And plus, everybody would lose their jobs.
Okay, what happens to all the people that was in Farpoint Station?
They just live in the jellyfish from now on.
Like, did they take everyone out or something? Like, they didn't have a line about it.
That's the part where I'm super confused about the whole thing. Like, is the one that we see there the one that's actually got people in it?
Yeah.
Is it?
I mean, it's Farpoint Station. Like,
okay.
he was like, there will soon be no Farpoint Station.
Yeah.
By Cinema Arts.
Makura, this mission certainly doesn't hold a candle as Q throwing them at the Borg is far more interesting as missions go. Maybe he should have started there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That would have been a great pilot.
He's kind of just being lazy here. He's like, well, you guys are already on your way to a mission.
Yeah.
I guess I don't need to come up with anything. And then it's interesting that this is I was going to say this earlier, pardon me. It's interesting for a couple of reasons that this is a year after Voyage Home. Because Voyage Home was anti-animal cruelty, we gotta save the whales.
Mm-hmm.
Sorta have the same thing with the jellyfish, and they look like aquatic animals, which is interesting. But also, you get to the end, and we have to sit here, not for as long, we have to sit here and watch these entities without, any dialogue between them, and you're just imagining the subtitles like you did with the whale probe, talking to the whales. Acting. A feeling of great joy and gratitude. She's still saying
that. You said that.
She's writing a Christmas carol.
Yep.
Feelings of great joy and gratitude. face like, the hell was this show we were just in? Like, what was the story? What just happened? And it was easy. Okay, see you later.
I really wish he just kept appearing randomly.
I wanted him to do it 5 more times across the bridge. And that's consistent. That's also a thing we do a lot with Q.
Yep.
He'll disappear, and then we think he's gone, but then he does something else.
We do that with almost every Q as well.
That's true.
We do it with a lot of Qs. We do it in Death Wish. We do it in Q
Deja Q?
Deja Q.
With the stogie?
Yeah.
At the end?
Yeah, the guy in the shuttlecraft when he talks to him and then he leaves and then he comes back and he's like, I'm watching you, and then he leaves.
I said I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about Q at the very end of the episode when he gives Picard a cigar.
Yeah.
Where he disappears. And you remember, like, don't bet on it, Picard, and he gives him the cigar?
Yeah.
Makura, Picard did it. Well, that just happened. Yeah, he absolutely did. HB Haga, Commander, what the heck did we just go through? And special appearance by DeForest Kelly. I have his action figure. Can you believe they made an action figure of a 137-year-old McCoy?
Really?
Yeah, that's what every little kid wants to play with.
Nice.
Can you also believe that the second episode of the show was Naked Now?
That is...
And it stayed on the air and we got more Star Trek?
That is the worst episode to go from that.
It's pretty bad. Okay, well, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. We're going to answer a couple of questions that we're going to do at the end of every show about our pilots. And then we're going to bid you farewell, folks. We'll announce the next show we're doing. Mm-hmm. Don't let me forget to do that.
Yep. Don't forget to do that.
Thank you. And then we'll be here again next week with another one. We are, like I said earlier, going to try real hard to keep this as close to weekly as we can. Jayson, this has been so much fun, man.
Yeah.
So, the first thing we want to ask is, does the TNG pilot have pilotitis?
Yeah.
As I described it earlier, pilotitis, is it just a litany of character introductions, and just kind of forcing the premise as you're not really telling, enough of a story?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do think there are definitely a lot of character introductions because there are a lot of characters, but I also think it does a good job of introducing like the big ones, and then just kind of having like just off to the side, like Worf's there and he's like, I'm a Klingon, like he has a line about that, but like he doesn't really do much yet, right? And they kind of introduce all the character motifs later in the show.
But the fact that and I'm saying this in hindsight, of course, but I think I would have felt this way if I'd first watched the show. It is that problem that you eloquently suggested earlier, where everybody kind of has their one prevailing character trait.
Right.
And it does kind of feel like it's difficult to tell who's going to really matter.
Yeah.
And honestly, you don't really get past that problem until after the first couple seasons, really, because eventually they go, oh, it is an ensemble show, and we're going to give like Data and episodes and Worf episodes, and I mean, it's a while before we really start doing that.
Yeah. And
so part of the problem is the show hasn't found itself yet.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have that right at the pilot. So I'm going to say, and I don't know, we don't have to come up with degrees of it, but I think the show has moderate to maybe not severe, but I'd say moderate pilotitis.
Yeah.
If you were watching this show without knowing any other TNG, and it's kind of hard to imagine that.
It is. Yeah.
But, given that we're big Star Trek fans, but we're going to do this for every show, and this will be easier with shows that we're just now being introduced to. And I wrote this list more for those shows, but we'll do this anyway. Who do you think would be the character that was the standout for you? That might be the person that you came back to see again.
I don't know, probably Riker.
Yeah.
I think.
I think objectively, especially if I saw this first as a kid, objectively I'd have to say it probably actually is Data, as weird retroactively as he feels.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of clear potential there. Like, in fact, in some ways, he's the one character that's more than just a prevailing character trait.
He
because
does
we
a lot in season 1 as well.
He actually does come right out and say, like, he's the one character with a real clear motivation. I want to be human. Yeah. I give up all my superiority to be human. That right away on the face of it is really interesting, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And is at the essence of what's interesting about exploring artificial intelligence characters in science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So we're big Star Trek fans. So does this make you more interested in a genre you're not familiar with? Question doesn't apply here, but we'll do that sometimes. Does the show feel like it already has an identity, or does it need to find its footing? Again, I think it doesn't really have a clear identity.
Yeah,
yet.
I think it needs to find its footing.
Realistically, would you keep watching this show based on just this pilot?
Yeah, I think so. I think I would, actually.
Yeah.
I do think I would watch Naked Now and then be like, no.
Maybe turn it off.
Yeah.
I would be on the fence. I'd be like, I don't totally understand what I was even watching. And, I mean, I want to have some historical perspective. I'm sure I would be looking at this differently in 87 than I would be looking at it now.
Right.
Like, some of it might not seem quite as cheeseball, but I would come back for production value and potential in some of these characters. There is clearly a talented cast at work that is fumbling around for better material.
Yeah.
That is clearly happening.
Yeah.
And finally, the big one. If you're a network executive, would you greenlight this series based on the pilot? Again, keeping in mind that is not how this one went. It was definitely going to get more episodes regardless. But let's say this was the TOS situation where the network has Roddenberry pitch a pilot or make a pilot. Do you make the show based on it?
Man.
Because those are different questions, right? Would you watch it versus...
Right.
Would you, as an executive, put millions of dollars behind it?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah?
I think I would.
Based on what? So clearly you'd have reservations.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are going to watch this. And you also have to keep in mind the fan climate at the time.
Right.
A lot of people that like Star Trek are not rooting for this show.
Yeah.
And you might be worried about the reasons that they would feel that way.
Yeah. I think, honestly, based on characters. Like, I think.
Potential for characters?
Yeah, like, potential for characters. And, I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, I would be on the fence, too. I think there's enough potential in it, and it looks good enough that I would greenlight it, but I would ask for major changes that weren't asked for.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I think, too.
The big thing is, I would say you have to lighten Picard up.
Yeah.
Right away, I'd say that guy has got to be more likable and he's got to be more fun to be around.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't need to be what Riker will be later when he actually gets to be more Jonathan Frakes, which was the best decision, one of the best decisions that show ever made. He doesn't have to be like that, and he can be, you know, not like buddy with everybody.
Yeah.
But I need some kind of an in with him that makes him a little bit more relatable, or I need to have a better sense of why he's like that, you know.
Yeah.
And then, like, I need the kid to act more his age and to not be perfect at everything. You know, that'd be a big thing that I would ask for. Yar immediately needs, like actual stuff to do. And I would say you need to either be an ensemble cast. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm saying this retroactively, but I feel like based on a pilot, as an executive, I would say this. Pick a lane. Are you an ensemble cast where every major character gets episodes about them?
Yeah.
Or are you a triad like TOS? And if you're a triad, who's the triad? Is it Picard, Riker, and I don't know, Crusher or Troy or
Data.
Data. Like what is it?
Yeah.
What's
Because
your
I feel
triad?
like from just watching the pilot, I feel like it would kind of look like Picard, Riker, Troy.
Yeah. I don't think based on this pilot, you could begin to tell me, is this a show where everybody we saw gets episodes? Or is it just Picard's show?
Yeah.
Or are there 2 or 3 other characters that we do a lot with, like we did with McCoy and Spock? Like, I don't think you could begin to tell me.
Yeah.
So we would tentatively greenlight it, and we would tentatively keep watching, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
All right, Don, Ranger Power, thank you, Captain Jayson, and all, till we meet next week. Yes, indeed. Thanks for watching, man. Appreciate it. I just wanted to check these comments real quick before we bid everybody farewell. We appreciate you guys watching in the middle of the afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get going, and I'll let you know with some time to spare, give you some notice when we do the next one, because like I said, I don't have a specific day for this yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll keep doing this Monday afternoons, or if we'll find an evening over weekends, or how exactly this is going to go yet. But,
yeah. What are we doing next week?
Well, next week thank you. We're doing a show that neither of us has ever seen before, but it is my mom and my stepdad's favorite show. And we're going to tackle this one based on a recommendation from Austin. And I don't know if Austin will join us for it, but he sent me a list of shows that he thought maybe we hadn't seen that we might consider doing. So we're going to go from a sci-fi show that you and I know really well to procedural that neither of us has ever seen, and we're going to watch the pilot for House next time. That'll be our next show. Like I said, we're going to jump everywhere. We're going to do all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
Whether 50 people watch that show or 1,000 people watch that show, we're going to do everything under the sun. So, yeah, House next time. Look forward to that.
Yep.
And just like with this, we will watch the pilot ahead of time, but we won't have any other information. This is not a show that either of us has ever watched. So we're going to watch the pilot. Jason's going to do some background research.
Yep.
And we're going to give you our first impressions. It'll be more of a first impression show.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to announce it yet, but I can't wait to tell you guys what we're doing for 3. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. And Robert says, I got to say, Cap, this is a good pilot. Thank you. He thinks we had a good pilot.
Whoa.
I appreciate it, man. Would you greenlight it?
Would you greenlight it?
Would you greenlight our pilot?
Which character would you come back for?
I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm very happy with this.
Yeah.
I think we got a good format.
I think we did.
I think there's some real potential for this show.
Yeah. Did you like my background?
I did like your background. Now, I think moving along, maybe you and I should have less of, like, one singular prevailing character trait and, you know, develop ourselves a bit, you know?
Yeah.
Become a little bit more, like well-rounded. And do you think we need to be less perfect and more flawed? You know? Do you think we need big flaws? Do you think occasionally I need to just, like, yell in your face for no reason? Would that improve the ratings?
No.
No?
Because it's not a drama.
Oh, okay. That's a good
Think of it more of like a late night talk show, you know?
Yeah, I guess podcasts work differently.
Yeah.
Well, people do come to those for drama sometimes as well.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, I like those hosts because they hate each other.
Yeah.
Anyway, Robert says Jason was the standout. I don't think this Cap guy has really found his footing yet. Yeah, I know that might be true. I'll work on that. I think maybe deeply flawed is the way I need to go, though. We'll see you again next week, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan.
I was Jason.
And we'll see you with more stuff here on Geekvolution this week. Bye, everybody.